Your heart and your soul and your passion. And the photo here, which I'm really, you're really blessed. We were lucky to have Matthew and his father, Matt Centrowitz, who's a great runner himself, a two-time Olympian, come to the Hilton Garden Inn where Richard Nicotra and Lois hosted us and everything. We had a giant crowd show up, 300 people, mostly kids from youth track clubs. And it wasn't even that Matthew was there. Matthew brought the gold medal with him, and he let everybody wear it, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I had to wear it in that picture. I felt that's the closest I'm ever going to get. So you know what? Well, maybe we'll enjoy the moment. And also in that photo was Jeff Brannigan, who's Matthew's great friend, Curtis High School graduate, who went on to American University and ran really, really well. And he's a big sports therapist now in Manhattan.
And Matt really has this great appreciation of its past and present right now.
Father and son. And if you're interested, Amazon.com. Matt Centrowitz, the father, with Christopher Kwiatkowski, wrote a book called Like Father, Like Son. Matthew's father, Matt, had a horrendous upbringing as a child, growing up in the Bronx projects to a father who abandoned them. Running saved his life. And Matthew was able to win the gold. Matt Centrowitz made the 76 Olympic team. He definitely had a chance for a medal in the 1980 Olympic Games, but the United States and many other countries boycotted the Games because of the Cold War, the invasion of Afghanistan. So Matt Centrowitz Sr. never got his chance. Yep. And God knows what NBC has footage of it. If you go online, watch the father in the stadium with the family. And it was amazing. His race was so dramatic because the gun goes off. He takes the lead from the start, which is considered like a real classic no-no. You never take the lead in the beginning. You want to save your energy. Studies show that the person in front is utilizing more energy by being in the front. But the first 3 laps was so slow that Matthew was able to put in an unbelievable sprint over the last lap and win the gold. And he crossed the line, and one of the things that came out of his mouth was, "Can you believe it?" And I'm cleaning that up a little bit because it was an R-rated phrase.
Yeah.
But he was in absolute shock. But what's great about him, he gets it. Yeah. And a lot of our track and field athletes get it. That's what's really cool, too. They get it. So...
Yeah, that deep appreciation for the moment
they are very well aware.
Accomplished.
And they're very well aware who came before them, and they get inspired by that. So I've always found a lot of these great athletes that we've met and we brought to Staten Island, they're fans of the sport too. You hang out with Bill Rogers, he'll be like, hey, how'd the javelin go today in Monaco? That's Bill. People are fans. They follow the sport, which is great.
And, that's right. When I was talking to him, you could just tell, again, just like with Matt, that deep love of the sport and all that. And, almost like Matt's father, the sport saved Bill's life, too, being a runner. Yes. So, it really has this powerful way of inspiring people, this sport.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, no, we've all been very, very lucky to do what we love. And we all really love it.
Maybe I need to take up more running and all that, because honestly...
Well, like I said, you got to treat it like a true love, You got to be a little delicate and careful and be, when in doubt, back off. Hardest thing to tell any runner. When in doubt, back off.
And now that ease myself into it.
That's
Don't
right.
Go
Ease
hard.
yourself gradually. There is no such thing as the magic workout, Eric. People sometimes say, "Oh, well, I saw Bill Rogers. He was running 180 miles a week." Well, Bill Rogers was also sleeping 10 hours a night and 4 hours in the afternoon and laying on the bed with his legs up. He's just running, eating, and sleeping. If somebody's working a full-time job, you got to fit it in as you can fit it in. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of other factors, too. There's genetics, there's where you live, air quality, all these kinds of things that come into play. So, there is no magic workout. However, if you are willing to stay consistent with a program that you believe in, sometimes this is more important than the body when it comes to that stuff.
And, going back to the Olympics, especially with Matt Centrowitz, is he going to be competing for 2020 in the 1500? Well,
in 2017, he had an injury-prone year, and he lost the national title to Staten Island-born Robbie Andrews, who was a 2016 Olympian as well. Robbie was eliminated, though, in the qualifying races. He was disqualified, unfortunately.
Oh, what took place?
1500, elbow in, Jocelyn. It was a little controversial in my own humble opinion, but maybe, I hope I'm not sounding slanted, but everyone I talked to says that they felt the foul shouldn't have been called. But, Matthew is now, he has the target on him. He is the Olympic gold medalist. He has, only Sebastian Coe has won the gold medal in the 1500, the metric mile, in 2 Olympics, 80 and 84.
Oh, the Moscow and LA games.
Yeah, Moscow he won and LA he won. Both were very dramatic. And Seb was also sick with illness in 83. Many people had written him off. And he came back in 84 like gangbusters and set the Olympic record. Matthew this season is having a very good season. It's kind of like an under-the-radar Matt Sensuowitz season. Today in Monaco, he finished way back in an outstanding field of 1,500-meter runners, but he ran 3:31, which is equal probably to about a 3:48 mile, right? And all season, he has run a time, and it seems that as each meet goes on, he has gotten progressively faster. You know what I'm saying? He's not winning, although he did win the Nationals this year in 2018. But, you know, all these other meets, his times are getting a little faster, a little faster, a little faster. It seems to be building. And in the world of professional running, it's July 20th. So the season doesn't really end until the end of September. So I honestly think that Matthew and his dad would like to try to take on Alan Webb's American mile record of 3 minutes 46 seconds. Tokyo in 2020, it's 2 years away. There's a lot of people that come out of the woodwork. You never know what happens.
Speaking of people coming out of the woodwork, who do you think could possibly come out of the woodwork in the world of track and field for Tokyo in 2020? The first time the Olympic Games being held in the city of the land, in the land of the rising sun since the early 1960s.
64, yeah. Right. That's a hard one to call. Like I mentioned to you today, Matthew ran a race today in Monaco. He finished way back, but his time was good. But when you're in championships, like a world championship or an Olympic Games, there are qualifying races where, you get in by place and then the 5 fastest times or 6 fastest times over a few races. So there's a lot more tactics involved, okay? Matthew Sensuowitz is the greatest poker player in miling I have seen in a really long time. He just has this ability in championships. It's like he has eyes behind his head here, and he could see everything and anticipate everything. I told his father and mother at one time, I said, I think that if he became an orchestrator, an orchestra conductor, he would pick up the craft in like 3 weeks and be able to do it perfectly. He just has that in some, I don't know if you're born with it. Intuitiveness, I have never seen it. It just astounds me. He always has the ability in championship races to put himself in the right place at the right time.
He almost sounds to me like a chess player where he can anticipate 10 moves ahead. And
Yeah,
all that.
yeah. I think that it's uncanny. However, having said that, Robbie Andrews has one of the most ferocious speed finishing kicks in the world.
What
Sprints at the end.
What do you
His
mean by
turnover at the end,
ferocious, kicks?
like fast beyond fast. Okay, if Robbie Andrews is up there in a championship race like he was in 2017, he can win it. And Robbie, same thing happened to Robbie in his only year in college. He won the NCAA half mile, the 800, storming from way back. And he's another top guy. You got some other guys too. There's a guy, Ben Blankenship, who ran in Rio with these guys, American. I can really speak for the Americans. Recently, a Stanford graduate, Sean McCourty, ran his first professional race in Belgium. It was a low field, but he still ran 3:36, which is a 3:53 mile, which is pretty good. It all timing and development is everything, Eric.
What about Meb Keflezighi? Is he going to be marathon running
Yeah,
in the next games?
Meb just retired from total competitive running.
All right.
So he's still running for now, but he's also over 40. Having said that, you never know. If Meb feels healthy and wants to give the Olympic trials a chance, they're in Atlanta in early 2020. Top 3 go. On that day, the top 3 go. And the marathon is the most unpredictable event to predict.
Oh, yeah.
Because weather, distance, somebody has a cold, little things come into play.
Or somebody either from Kenya or Morocco or
Right.
Somebody from the MENA region of Africa or the eastern part of Africa in that region, or Tanzania. Somebody in that region typically has won the marathon.
Right.
The last I can't even recall an American winner in the marathon.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, Frank Short in 1972.
Yeah.
And Frank was considered one of the favorites, not the favorite.
Yeah.
So, but he pulled it off. Frank would win a silver in 76. Meb won a medal in the Olympics. Galen Rupp of the United States won a medal in Rio. The question is, can they all peak on the right day? And like I said, the U.S. Olympic trials for the marathon and the Olympic marathon, experts will always argue with, because to predict it,
it's tough.
Very, very difficult. Unknowns do come out, and you never know what happens.
And not only that, we've seen in marathon past where there are runners so close, neck and neck with each other, it comes right down to either a photo finish or somebody just having their feet
Yeah, it does happen, but not as much. But sometimes you'll see a guy like at 13 miles, halfway through, hey, I feel good. And all of a sudden he starts surging. They're leading through 20 miles. The next thing you know, they finish 11th.
I've seen races where it took place on a rainy day, which sort of alters,
it affects some runners in good ways and other runners in not. Bill Rogers would love it when at his prime. 40. He always said, if my feet and fingers are numb at the starting line, I'm going to have a good day. But that's Bill.
Other people would be like, I want out of here. That would be me. I would be like, I'm done. Yeah.
And some people do run good in the heat. So, like I said, there's a lot of factors that come into play.
And, like for the future of running, where do you see this sport going?
Well, Sebastian Coe is the chairman of the IAAF, the International Track Federation for the world.
And he was a former. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah, it's okay.
He was a former MP. Of course, he's from London, England.
Right.
And he was from the MP of Falmouth from 97 to 99. Member of the Conservative Party. Was also a Lord Temporal in the House of Lords. And then was a two-time gold medalist, as Jeff mentioned, at the 1884 Games in the 1500 meter. And is now the new president of the IAAF, and coming on, 3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years in. Seb would be very happy with your description, by the way, so I hope he sees a copy of this one day.
Yep. I would love to meet him as well, because I'm kind of like, I'm enthralled by him.
The one thing I found amazing about Seb is being at the Rio Olympics. When you're at the Olympic Games or you're at a World Championship, you never see the head of the IAAF. They sit in some reserved VIP of VIP things. Yeah. Seb definitely had that, but he was down on ground level, meeting with the fans, intermixing, saying, "Hey," he acted a lot like Fred LeBeau, which made me laugh. But that kind of inclusiveness is what we need. And Seb has difficult decisions going on. It's very everything is political in the world, and the sport is full of political stuff. Track and field, the Track Field Federation is the only federation right now out of all the Olympic sports that has still banned the Russians from international competition over their state-sponsored drug program.
And that resulted from the 2014 Games in Sochi, which is the most expensive games ever put on. Over $50 billion was spent on that one Winter Olympic game alone.
Right.
And there was a whistleblower that came out with the story of state-sponsored doping, which stripped the Russian Federation of several medals and banned them from the most recent games in Pyeongchang in 2018, and in track and field at Rio. If I'm
right. Here's the catch-22. If you are somebody who is against the use of performance-enhancing drugs in the Olympic world, right now Sebastian Coe is your hero.
Yeah.
He's the only one running a federation, despite threats from the other sports, and I think bullying from the International Olympic Committee. Come on, let the Russians back in already. Let them back in again. Seb wants total accountability. Okay? It's not an easy road to fight the world of performance-enhancing drugs, but he right now is the bulwark against it.
So at least that's what I respect about him, because other sports, like you mentioned, would have caved in. They would have,
and they have already. They have, and we'll see what the future holds. But what's funny? Seb didn't have to take this job. He's financially well off. He wanted to try to save the sport. He wanted to make the sport move in a different direction. He's trying different things. Recently, they had something called the Athletics World Cup, a team competition that was held in the London Stadium, 2 days, where they had 25,000 fans for 2 days in a row, which for a track meet is pretty damn good. And it was held in the London Olympic Stadium, a top-notch venue.
I love that
place. And what was cool was that, if you were in third place with a lap to go in your race, you're like, yeah, but I'm representing my country. The top, I think, 6 places scored points for your national team. So, like, at the end, points were added up. The United States did win. However, though some people bashed the game, saying that a lot of the top athletes didn't show up, many did not. And people are like, well, where's this going to go? But I see a load of potential in that. I think bringing in the team aspect where like fans could root for their respective teams, it's kind of like the World Cup of soccer. But you do in track and field where every country is represented in all the events going on at the same time.
Yeah, instead of just waiting every 4 years for the Olympics to take place, and you have events like this,
right?
Which
Right.
I think it's a wonderful idea,
Right? And this is an this is a championship off year. There are no world championships this year, so a lot of athletes, like we mentioned, Matthew Centrowitz, a lot of athletes are trying to go for a personal best time. That's really what they want. So it's a good time to do it.
Oh man! And I see you also showed me this picture right. Who's this lady that's right next to you?
This is current news. A few hours ago in Monaco, American Courtney Friedrichs, who runs for the Bowerman Track Club, finished second to a world record performance in the steeplechase.
What is the steeplechase?
The steeplechase is a barrier. It's on the track where you jump over barriers and go through the water pits. All right. And when you come into the water, there's a little ramp that comes out of it. So it's very taxing on the legs. And Courtney set the American record today, breaking Emma Coburn's American record. Emma Coburn was last year's World Championship gold medalist. Courtney finished with a silver behind her last year. But today, Courtney got the American record with Emma behind her. But we are so strong in the steeplechase, it is unbelievable. So Emma Coburn is not somebody to throw to the side of the curb either. She is still a major athlete who peaks when it counts as well. But very happy for Courtney. Courtney's very passionate, loves the sport like a lot of people. She really shows it in her face and everything.
So Emma and Courtney, they both look like front runners for 2020 as well.
I hope so. See what happens. I said it's still 2 years away, and 2 years is a long time to worry about. Right now these athletes are focused on this season. What kind of best times can I get? How much money can I make off the circuit?
Especially in the marathon circuit.
Right. And by the way, I invite people who, if they're interested, the New York Roadrunners, the first weekend in September, has the Fifth Avenue Mile. And it's only a mile. They have races early in the day for everybody, different people, different times, different ages, etc. And then they have the world-class runners. So Emma Coburn, Courtney Friedrichs, Matt Centrowitz, Robbie Andrews will probably be competing there. And what's really great is that for many of these athletes, it's the end of the season. So when they cross that line, whether they win the race or finish 10th, they're like, it's over.
It's cool off.
And they almost always meet people, talk to people, sign autographs, take selfies, pics, whatever you want to do. They're really great people.
And the New York Roadrunners, they're the official organization that sponsors all the races around New York City.
Pretty much. There are other organizations that put on races as well, but the New York Roadrunners is the flagship. They're the ones behind the New York City Marathon and the major half marathons in the 5 boroughs.
And to get into the actual marathon, because I know it started just with a few hundred people and grew to over 35,000 people.
Yeah.
You have to be lucky to either get a lottery draw, if I'm not mistaken, or you have to run for a charity and raise enough money too.
Right.
And I think you have to run at least 4 out of the 5 half marathons as well to
something like that. There's a series of New York Roadrunner Club races you have to run. If you're a top American world-class person, you have no problem. But the race started in 1970 with 78 finishes. The winner was Gary Murky, a fireman. Then the running boom started hitting beginning in 72 with Shorters winning the Olympics, and then the rise of the running. Fred LeBeau came along and really got the marathon going, and 1976 was put in the 5 boroughs, which is a remarkable story in itself.
Definitely. And if you are lucky enough to even be in this event and you do happen to cross that finish line, right behind the finish line is the statue dedicated to the late Fred LeBeau.
That's right. It's actually on East 89th Street most of the year by Fifth Avenue. But then for the marathon, they move it to Tavern on the Green.
Yep.
So, and yeah, I mean, you look at certain things in the world, in 1970, if you had told Fred LeBeau 25 years from now, your race is going to have 35,000 people, it's going to run through 5 boroughs, he probably would have thought everybody was nuts.
Oh, yeah.
So,
because at that time, New York City in those days, it was not exactly easy to run in those neighborhoods.
Right. But also, there weren't many races that were run through the streets. Only the Boston Marathon was a race that was run through the streets through the years. Yep. If you wanted to run a race, you ran it in a park or at a track.
Yep.
So, Fred with Alan Steinfeld revolutionized road racing in the world.
And the race is really crazy to begin with because you're on the Verrazano for like 2 miles. Then most of the race takes place in Brooklyn through 4th Avenue until you get to the Pulaski. Then you're in Queens for about 2.5 miles. Then you go to the east side of the city for about a mile or two. And then you go into the Bronx for about a mile. You cross the, I think, 3rd
Willis Avenue Bridge.
The
Yep,
Willis
Avenue Bridge.
Into 5th Avenue, all the way down into Columbus Circle, finally entering the park
Right.
as you cross it, the 26.4 or
26.2, yeah.
26.2 miles. And it's not easy. It is incredibly, it's a great race of endurance. My brother has ran it several times.
Yep. All credit to your brother and everyone else. I've
Yep.
never done it, but I've worked the event.
It must be rewarding.
It's very rewarding. Just words can't describe it. It's one of those things like where you take a picture of something and you tell somebody, well, you just got to be there.
Yep.
So as long as you're there.
And I wanted to ask you something about your dad too, as well.
Sure.
And was he as big a runner like?
Not at all. Not at all. Softball guy, like baseball. When I got into running, I've had a lot of great coaches in my life. My father's the ultimate coach because classic parenting. He dropped me off, sat there, watched, never said a word.
He just wanted to see you compete and
Just
give
never,
it your all.
Yeah, never said a word. Never said a word. No controlling situation, no loud negative situations. I know that in youth sports these days, sometimes, unfortunately, things happen with parents who are overbearing, which is an understatement.
There are parents who I think sometimes get way too involved. And I understand because they want to be there for their kids, but there's sometimes there are parents who can be over the top.
Right.
I've seen videos of this, unfortunately, on the news.
So have I. So I think we all have.
But you know what? At the same time, though, there are parents who, like your dad, who just said, "Here you go.
Yeah.
Do it and give it your all."
He got me where I needed to go, and let everything else fall into place. And I've been very, very lucky. The other thing too is like you'll see like a really great coach, and see parents second guessing them, and I always shake my head. And this coach told me, they said, well, if the parent wants it more than the kid, or the coach wants it more than the kid, there's a problem.
Yep. Because it's the athlete who
Right.
has to want
And my old teammate Vinny Giles at Peters, he has an attitude like, hey, if you're not going to be all out with me, go now. No hard feelings, go. And I think that's a great way to coach. So there are quite a few coaches with that attitude. They're like, you're either in this or you're not. So,
Do you use that same type of parenting with your 2 daughters?
Yeah, I'm very happy that my oldest daughter is running.
Yes.
It's great that she's doing it. It's always been her call.
Yep.
I got her where she went to go. I gave her some advice, some little things here and there. But, at this point, she's running half marathons and doing well. So, she's enjoying and she's healthy. She's over 20 years old, and she's healthy, which is great.
Yeah, Amanda Rose Benjamin, by the way, very good friend of mine, who I had the pleasure and honor of working with in Taming of the Shrew, and really good actress all around. If you want to see her performances coming up, Little Mermaid Within the Wings production, late July, early August, and I would also recommend seeing her as Ophelia in Hamlet at CVU Playwright Theater in September. And really.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, you should be the Benjamin family agent at this point. So,
And overall, like with running and all that, because
Right.
we talked about Sebastian Coe, who,
Right.
Seb, as you
Right.
like to call him.
he told me I can call him Seb, so it's okay.
And or Spivey with his Spiveyisms and
Right.
his history of running, and the fact that he worked with the women's team at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And you have Newton too, and so many there's just so many great names and people who have influenced the sport over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I love about this sport is all the different stories and all the different figures that you have met personally, that you've talked to.
Right.
And the light that you have right now is just really outstanding.
Thank you.
If for people who want to be a runner and all that,
Right.
in today, what's your advice to them? Yeah.
Okay, go to a doctor, get a physical.
Okay.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Once you're cleared, try to get to a running store, a running specialty store. As of now, there are not any on Staten Island. There are quite a few in New Jersey, and quite a few there's one in Brooklyn, I believe, a few in Manhattan. Get to a running store where they will fit on the proper shoe for you. Okay? Just because the shoe looks good might not be good for you.
Nikes? Because I know you're like a big Nike fan.
Nike, Adidas, Asics, New Balance. The old adage is that if you're going to spend $75 to $100 on a running shoe and it fits your foot, that is your shoe. Okay? That's the one for you. Don't worry how ugly it looks. You just want to run in a shoe that's good for you. Okay? What's good for some people with Adidas or Nike is not good for other people. So at that point, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. But I actually heard a line from Matt Centrowitz Sr. recently where he said, you can only have one chef in the kitchen. So it's always good to try to find yourself a coach. But now here's the big thing. To surrender yourself to that coach's philosophy can be very difficult for a lot of people.
Including me.
Right. Once doubt creeps into the coach athlete, or like the athlete starts having doubt, it's done. It's done. Okay. You have to have total, firm belief in the coach. I mean, I would say as a beginner, try to find flat surface, soft, talk test, run, walk 10 minutes every day for like 3 weeks. I don't care after 10 days. Hey, I feel good. I'm going to do 20. No, stay at 10. Okay. It's okay to bike a little bit. It's great to do weight training. I think weight training is a great injury preventative when done the right way.
Like squats or?
Yeah, but when done the right way.
Okay.
But once again, you need supervision for this. But with the running and the jogging, talk test, 10 minutes a day is a good way to start. Don't worry about how far you're going. There might be one day where you ran a mile in 10 minutes. The next day, oh my God, I felt horrible. I ran a half mile. Well, maybe you didn't get sleep that night. Maybe, you had some stresses and stuff. So it's going to be a long journey if you want to do this. But I will tell you that the journey is worth it. And I speak for a lot of people with that journey. It's always been worth it. But please keep in mind, whoever you select, please have a total faith in them. Without the faith, that is the one thing I've learned. Sebastian Coe averaged 35 miles a week with high-quality training and weight room. He was coached by his father, who was not a track athlete. He was an engineer, scientific mind, was a cyclist. But he believed in him. Whatever his father, Peter, told him to do, he did. Peter Snell was also a world record holder in the mile, also an Olympic gold medalist, who ran 150 miles a week under Arthur Lydiard. He believed in Arthur. Yep. The faith factor is so tantamount to producing a champion.
Whether it's this sport, any sport whatsoever.
Any sport.
Just like when Tom Brady believes in Bill Belichick, and look what happened. Right. They won 5 Super Bowl championships. Or when you see Popovich, with Duncan, or certain players and coaches, when they believe each other, they can go very far.
Right. And the old adage, too many Chiefs, not enough Braves. And that's, like I said, only one chef can be in the kitchen.
I was going to ask you, what quote would you utilize running, and then you just
I've been using that Centrowitz quote a lot lately.
I know.
His father's probably going to want a copyright on it.
I am.
Tom Fleming was my coach for many, many years, who passed away sadly last year. Tom's a 2-time winner in the New York City Marathon, took up running in his senior year of high school, won the state championship after 1 year running. Went to college, set some Jersey records, and won the New York Marathon twice, ran the Boston Marathon in 2:12. He later on went on to become a really great coach. And his phrase was, somewhere in the world, someone is training when you're not. When you race them, they will win.
Well, on that note, we're going to close our show on that. Jeff Benjamin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to be a part of this show. It's really an honor, and thank you, really, for everything.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for Eric's View. Good night, Staten Island. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Keep running.
And keep running. Definitely keep running.
Keep running.
Good night, folks. Bye.
All right. Good job, brother.
Oh, man.